Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? Well, the answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. When I started using Anchor to do my podcast, it was so extremely easy that I haven't even bothered to look for another app to use. I love this app. It's the only one I deal with, the only one I even recommend, period. I recommend you get on there ASAP. If you want to start a podcast, this is definitely the place to go. It's easy. You can drive around and record. You can sit in your basement and record. You can do it anywhere. It's fantastic. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start, anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Adam Rich from the Really Rich Podcast. And I want to talk to you about, what are you naturally gifted at? Like, we all have something that we just happen to excel at, happen to be decent at. And even better than decent. I mean, you just know you naturally, it's not a bragging thing. It's okay to be self-aware and understand what are your strengths. What are you naturally good at? And if you don't know at this point, I highly suggest figuring it out, man, because a lot of times there's one of two ways to go about it. You either have a natural talent, but you really don't like, the subject matter in which it's beneficial. Or you have an extraordinary talent that you really enjoy, that you really love. Like for me, for instance, there was a talent. I've always been really pretty solid at math. I would never say that I'm some math genius or anything, but I've always been really good at math. Never liked it. I never had a math class that I loved. I really didn't. I guess the only thing that I ever enjoyed about math was multiplication back in third grade or something, whatever the fuck they teach it. And that was it. That was basically it. I've always been decent at formulas, and I don't mean scientific ones. I mean math shit, and even the geometry and the algebra, the things like that. I've always been decent at that, but I've never liked it. And I remember thinking when I was younger, people always said, "Well, you should try to get into a field of something you're naturally gifted at." And at the time, the only thing I really thought about was, what am I gifted at that I go to school for in high school, elementary school, middle school, high school. And I never looked at it as what am I good at hobby-wise, or what am I good at just naturally in the world. I always looked at it, what are you good at in school? And the only thing that I excelled in, the only two major fields that I ever excelled in of classes that I had, was math and spelling. And it's so fucking pointless. For me, it's so meaningless. And I'm not saying it's meaningless in the world. If you're good at it and you can use it with what you do, it's phenomenal. But nobody in the fucking late 80s, early 90s, nobody cared if you were good at spelling or if you were good at math. That never led to anything other than kind of nerdy shit. And when you, I grew up as an only child, and I always, when I was little, and you're an only child, you don't have I don't want to say my self-esteem was low, because it definitely wasn't really low. It just that the things that benefit you when it comes to spelling and math are nerdy things, which I'm all for now. But when I was younger, I was wanting to actively avoid or hide myself from any nerdy things. Anything I never liked talking about Star Wars. I kind of liked Star Wars, but when I was young, I really love Star Wars now, but when I was young, the only thing I really liked that was nerdy that I cared to talk about was Superman, because I always loved Superman. And then that was it. I mean, I liked outer space type shit, but you couldn't talk about that. Girls thought you were the dorkiest guy on earth if you were in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade talking about like space and Star Wars and shit like that. Like, it just wasn't cool. And spelling is not I think it's cool now to know, like, to be good at spelling, but at the same time, it's like, it's never once benefited me. No, I lied. You know what? There's one fucking time, and you guys are going to like this. There was one time, and this would never happen today, I don't think. This is creepy to this, in this day and age. Seemed a little more okay back then, but it was still weird. Anyway, in 2nd grade, every week we had a spelling test on Friday. At the end of the week, we always had a spelling bee, or not a spelling bee, but like a spelling test. And every single week after week after week after week, all the way until the very last week of school, I got an A+, 100% on every single spelling test. Which, you know, in 2nd grade, that's impressive. Now it's not that impressive to know that I spelled 100% of 2nd grade words properly. But nonetheless, I get to my very last week, and the teacher had told us that if you don't get any questions wrong by the end of the year, whoever was left, because I think like with like a month left, I think there was like 4 or 5 of us who had never missed a spelling test or never missed a word. And he tells us, I'll never forget it, Mr. Barrels. And hopefully this doesn't get him in any kind of trouble, because like I said, it was a more accepted time back then. But the thing is if you went and spelled every word right the whole year, then he would take us to McDonald's. And so we get down to the last week, and it's only me and 1 or 2 other people. And we get down to the last week. I think at this point, I was the last one, actually, now that I think about it, because when I got to that last week, I had spelled every single word right until the very last week. And then I remember to this day, just weird that we remember certain shit like this. It's not even that important, but it was. I misspelled one word on my last fucking test in 2nd grade, and the word was together. And here's the crazy part about it. Now, right now, obviously, it's like, well, who couldn't spell that? But in 2nd grade, for some reason, that word was difficult for me when all the other words weren't. And I get to that last thing, and I spelled that one fucking word wrong, and he gives me back the test, and I was just devastated. I was heartbroken over this. I was pretty much in tears in class because I was so excited to do. It was one of the few things that I knew I was good at, and I loved it. Like, I loved being good at it, you know? And I get to that last word, spell it wrong, get the test back. I'm the last guy in the class. I'm the last person in the class that was up for this reward, and I spelled that one word wrong. And he ends up telling me that if I retake the test the following week or whatever, if I retake the test, this is the last chance I have. If I spell everything right, then he'll take me to McDonald's. And I remember I thought to myself on how to prep myself for this word. And this to this day is what has helped me spell words correctly. And it's insane to think back that this is the lesson that I learned in 2nd grade, and I even remember the fucking word. But here's how I taught myself how to spell words that were tough for me. I had to group it into smaller words. I've done this with everything. Spaghetti, I remember, was a big one. It was always hard for me to remember where the H was in spaghetti. I knew it was somewhere in there, but I couldn't remember where. And this is how this is how I've taught myself. And maybe this will help somebody with spelling. But I remember thinking to myself, the word together, if you break it down, is the 3 words, to get her. And it sounds bad, but that's the way I had to break it down. I was like, how do I remember to spell this? Break it down into little, smaller words, make it like a phrase. And then I always remembered the way to spell together was to spell it to get her. And that is how, to this day, I haven't forgotten that. And the same thing with spaghetti. The way I've always remembered how to spell spaghetti is I had to think to myself, I had to break it into smaller things and pronounce it like that. And I broke spaghetti down into spag-heady. And that's how I always remembered that the H comes right after the G. It's spag-heady. And that's how I remember how to spell spaghetti. Lasagna, I always remembered lasagna. And I know it sounds fucking weird, dude, but for real, this has been so helpful and so beneficial to me in my life. The word, what was it? Guarantee. I remember spelling it, I remember thinking that it's guarantee. That's how I always had to remember how to spell guarantee, because there was a U, then an A, and I couldn't remember if it was at the guar part or if it was at the aunt part, if it was guarantee or if it was guarantee. And I know this sounds fucking weird, but I'm telling you, trust me, this shit works. Bologna, Bologna. Every day. I don't know why, but it always helped me. And I remember it to this day because of that one fucking thing. Anyway, the long story short is I end up spelling it right the next day or the next week, whatever it was, the last chance I had. I spell it right. I get 100%. And the guy took just me out to McDonald's during school hours. Now, it doesn't, in the 80s, it did not seem that bad. Right now, thinking back, a grown man took a stranger's child that was in second grade. So I don't know how old I would be then. What, like 6, 7 years? I think I started kindergarten when I was 4, ended when I was 5, so 6. Yeah, I was like 5, 6, 7 years old, somewhere in there. So a grown man takes a stranger's child to McDonald's. It sounds horrible. And trust me, I'm going to be honest, nothing happened. It wasn't weird like that. But I remember thinking once I got to high school, I was like, damn, that Mr. Barrels, that was weird that he took me to fucking McDonald's, just me and him. That is weird. But that was the reward. And I don't know, I mean, he never tried anything creepy, never did anything weird. But looking back, it seems such a fucking weird thing to do. To take a child by yourself to McDonald's during school hours. It's just weird. You see that's how things set, like that's how a bad movie starts, you know? But anyway, shout out to him, dude. He taught me a very valuable lesson, because that one word taught me how to break down words from that day forward, and I still do it to this day. And it has always been helpful. But getting back to what I was originally, the point that I was trying to make about it is that skill doesn't really get you a lot to be a good speller. I mean, shit, now every program we have spell check. Every phone, every time. Like, I didn't really need calculators a whole lot. Well, now we have calculators everywhere. So 2 of my greatest attributes when I was in school have basically become so commonplace that you don't need to have that skill. Like, I don't need to be good at math. I have a calculator. It can figure out anything. You can type the shit in on the internet, and it will tell you the answer. I don't need to figure out how to spell anything. There's spell check. And I don't know, man. It's like, the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because I feel like everyone on earth has a special talent. Like a really, really, like there's something that we all excel in. And I just want to know, do you use that? Are you using that for your own personal gain? Because I think you should, but at the same time, you got to figure out something that you can use that talent with that you really like, and you can excel beyond almost everyone on earth. If you're the greatest, like Eminem at one he was terrible in school, hated school, but he studied dictionaries. He studied how to do words and how to put words together and how to bend them and rhyme them and everything. And he's one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. But it wasn't like he excelled in high school at that. It wasn't like he knew he was just naturally talented at that. That was something that, he obviously has the talent to do it, but it was something that I'm sure he learned later on when he was starting to rap more, that he realized the things he could do with words and how he understood the meanings, and it became relevant to him. And what I meant, basically, the reason I'm doing this show today is because I want to push this on people. I want you to think about, what are you naturally gifted at? What do you naturally excel at? And do you like that? Like I said, man, one of the things that I've always been relatively talented at that I never thought about when I was younger is my ability to communicate, the gift of gab, the being able, like, talking, not having any issues talking to strangers, and being friendly and outgoing and trying to communicate with people. I've always loved that. But in school, that wasn't something we talked about. It wasn't something that was very relevant to, to life at the time. Especially because we didn't have, the internet wasn't booming. It wasn't at scale like it is right now. it wasn't a thing. You didn't have social media. Like you didn't, there was a point in time, I think I was in 10th grade, maybe 11th. And I remember having a communications class. And I always got in trouble for talking. That's how bad it is. You're in a communication class, but and don't get me wrong, they want you to communicate, but they wanted you to learn about all these different intricacies about communication, and I didn't care about the science behind it. I just liked doing it. Now that I'm older, I do care about that. I understand it more because I've actually studied more about it. I've researched more about it because it's now interesting to me. But when I was in school, all I cared about was fucking off and having a good time, which is not the place to do it. But I didn't like school the way it was structured and set up. I didn't like having to take a bunch of classes of things that I wasn't interested in just to pass, and get a good grade, to make my teachers move me on to another grade. I didn't like the format. I didn't like being in there. I didn't like it's not that I didn't like the authority. I didn't mind the authority so much, but it's just like, I've never liked doing certain things that I don't want to do at the time that I don't want to do it. I don't like being forced into learning or doing, it's not that I don't like that, but the learning thing, but I don't like being forced into doing shit I don't care about, and I found that everyone on earth is lazy in certain departments, in certain fields. Like we all say, oh, that guy's lazy or this guy's a hard worker. But the reality is anybody can be a hard worker if it's something you actually like, if it's something you actually enjoy doing. Like if you enjoy making quilts, you don't mind working for 5 hours straight making quilts. If you enjoy singing, you don't mind singing until you damn near lose your voice. If you don't mind playing basketball, like if you love playing basketball, you don't mind playing until you're fucking dead tired and you're ready for a nap. That's just the reality, man. When I used to go out in, like I used to BMX bike, with my friends and hit like jumps and all this shit, and I used to ride and I'd skateboard and stuff when I was younger. I used to love doing it. I would not mind doing it until I was out of breath and like just ready for night time, And the reason this is so important is because I know that we all have something that we just naturally excel in. We don't choose it. It's not something that we wake up one day and we go, you know what, I'd like to be good at this, and then tomorrow you're just naturally good at it. No, there are things that we just excel at. There are people that, like, they're 2 years old and they throw a plastic ball, 200 feet or something. And it's just like, how do you throw a ball that good at that age when I can't even do that now? And it's insane to me, man, because we all have something. And if you don't know what yours is, that doesn't mean you don't have one. It just means you haven't thought deep about it. You haven't put in the time or effort into thinking about what are you naturally just good at. If you just go do it, like if you just randomly just pick it up and just start to do it right now, what are you good at? And maybe you hate it. And this is the big problem. I find that if you're naturally gifted at something, but you hate doing it, you probably haven't thought about, doing that, using that talent, but in a different way. Like, for instance, right? My mom and dad have always told me, my teachers, my friends, my coworkers, everyone's always told me, you have a gift of gab. You can really talk to people. And they would say, you should be in sales. That's what I always heard. You should be in sales. My mom told me when I was younger, you should become a lawyer, because she wanted me to go to school and all that stuff. And I hated the idea of going to school for that long. Then I got to a point where I was like, man, what if there's like criminals and I'm a lawyer and it's my job to defend them? I want to win a lot, and I don't want to help win I don't want to win if it means helping a criminal get away with something. So then I was like, nope, can't be a lawyer. But that didn't mean that I gave up on my talent. It just means I gave up on trying to pursue that aspect of which uses my talent. I could have gone into sales. I was in sales my entire career up until the plastics company that I work at. I was always in sales. But then it started to get to the point where sales was more about selling than it was about being honest. And that I did not like. I said, how can I use my gift of gab to do something that is not lying to people? Because, I didn't mind doing sales when I was younger, and I liked seeing if I could if anyone, had like a reason for not wanting to buy something, I wanted to come at it from every angle I possibly could to see if I could get you to buy it. And sometimes that meant lying, and I hated that. That was the worst fucking part for me, because I hate trying to manipulate people in some huckster way to just get what you want just for money. And then, like, most of my life, I've never given a fuck about money. I've never cared. Like, I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to be broke, like, to where I can't afford to eat or survive. But I don't give a fuck about being rich. That's what. And when you hear the name, like, a lot of people get this messed up when they see the name Really Rich for the name of the podcast. Most people assume going in that it's about money. And don't get it twisted. I did that by design. I want people to focus, because I know 99% of people are focused heavily on money and becoming rich or wealthy. But I know that in life, the more important shit has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with being wealthy or being able to buy anything. The shit that makes you really, really rich in life, the things that make you really have abundance and greatness and good and joyful life, is being happy, having like good friends and family, having people that you care about, having good health, having appreciation for what you have. When you understand that you're blessed and when you have appreciation and thankfulness and gratitude for what's actually in your life, that is what being rich is. Understanding that you have an abundance. Listen, if you can look at your life right now and say, man, I have a place to live. I have a means of transportation more than just walking. I have food whenever I'm hungry. I have a spouse or a friend or a relative or a coworker that has my back, that I can go to and tell them anything, and they're there for me. Or you have a family, you have a mom or a dad or both, or you have kids, or you have a wife or a husband, or you just have a good circle of friends. You might be single. Maybe you have a good circle of friends, a good team with you. Like, that's what it means to be really rich, dude. And I'm not saying, that's why I named the show that. Because I focus all of my attention, basically, on giving people reasons to be grateful in life. That's everything to me. If people understood that somebody else's opinion and judgment of you means literally nothing towards you and what you can accomplish in life, like, if I meet somebody right now and I've never seen them before, I've never heard of them, and I meet some guy and he comes up and he's like, hey, I'm Steve, and I think you fucking suck. I think you're an asshole. I think you're stupid. You're an idiot. And then he walks away. If you can look at that and not get mad, not want to fight the guy, not want to argue with him, not want to prove yourself to him, and you can just walk away and go, all right, whatever. And then you go on about your life and you prove it to yourself that you're good, and you know within, like, you have that confidence and that self-esteem, dude, you've won. That's winner mentality is what that is. You don't need to argue your case. Because here's the reality, dude. If somebody you've never met comes up and says that to you, and they have zero context, they don't know you, why would you even value that opinion at all? They don't know you. So if somebody comes up to you and they said, I don't like you, you're stupid. Or even if they come up to you and they say, hey, you're ugly, and then they walk away. Well, anybody who has the type of mentality to think that they should just go up to a stranger and call them ugly is not all there in the head. And in which case, why would you value that person's opinion? Like, if somebody comes up to you and calls you stupid or calls you an asshole, and they know not, or a racist or a bigot or a homophobe or any of these fucking terms that are getting flown around nowadays so freely by keyboard warriors, the point is, if they don't really know you, why are you even listening to that noise? Let them say it. They obviously live a very miserable, sad, upsetting, hateful life if they're going onto people's posts of people they don't even really know, and they're just trashing them. You have to be in a very weird place to do shit like that. And I just look at it as, why would you even listen to that opinion? Why value that at all? Why even put your thoughts or energy into that, because it really is irrelevant. You know how many people like Howard Stern? I don't know why he just popped in my head. He's a radio guy. He's been a radio guy his whole life. You know how many people hate him and think he sucks? But he's like one of the biggest radio guys of all time. So you're bound to have haters regardless how good you do. I don't care if you love Eminem, somebody hates him. If you love Tupac, somebody hates him. If you love Michael Jordan, somebody hates him. LeBron, somebody hates him. Like, everyone on earth is loved by some and hated by some. The bigger you are, the more you're hated. Maybe the more you're loved also. But the reality is, these people that love or hate you, 99% of them don't even fucking know you. So why listen? Why take any energy into that and think to yourself, man, are they right? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. It doesn't fucking matter what they say. Your story's not over with. It's not completely written yet. So go on and write it. And if somebody says, listen, you're never going to, like, you love rap, you think that you have a great talent in rap, and you want to start rapping, and everyone else around you is like, dude, you suck, you ain't never going to make it. Why are you listening to that? Show them they're wrong. To me, it's so much more fun to prove people wrong than it is to listen to them, even when they tell you how great you are. Like, if somebody tells you, hey, man, I really listened to what you were saying, and you did an awesome job, that's awesome, and it makes you feel good. But the reality is, their opinion is just as valuable or just as impactful to your life long term than somebody shitting all over you. Because sometimes the ones that shit on you are the ones that drive you to be better. Sometimes the praise isn't that great. Because if you're getting, like, your mom is going to tell you how great you are. And even if you suck, most times your mom or dad is going to tell you, yeah, you're doing really good. It sounds great. And if all you hear is how great you are, you're never going to try to improve. So I fully believe that when people think that you're not capable and they think you suck and that you're just trash and you're never going to make it, dude, I love that stuff. Because there's nothing I want more than to prove people wrong when they trash you like that. And when they tell you, hey, you said something that really changed my life and made me a better person, that shit matters to me. That stuff means a lot to me, because if they feel better about who they are inside and you're the cause of it, dude, that's incredible. Even if it never goes anywhere for them, the fact that they feel better about themselves, the fact that they have a newfound confidence or self-esteem or attitude, a positive thing for their life, even if it doesn't affect them, on a financial level or a business level, or even if you don't ever get to see the benefit, the fact that they feel it and they're telling you that you were the one that made things better for them, that to me is the ultimate high. That's what I'm trying to do every day with this. And trust me, there's a lot more bad days than there are good. But your ability to shut that shit out, shut the negativity out, the criticism, the anger, the hatefulness, the depression, the anxiety, the sadness, the shit talking, the opinions, the judgment, when you can shut even the praise and the good stuff, the compliments, when you shut it all out and you just keep focusing and focusing and focusing, tunnel vision that shit so you can get better and better and better to do better for other people, oh my God, it feels so good. And that, I think, when your life feels valuable, it's not about your money, it's not about your bank account, it's not about the items that you have in your possession. When you feel like a valuable human being, that is the fucking epitome of what it's like to live really rich. It's not about money. It's not about fancy cars. It's not about clothing that you're wearing, jewelry that you got on. It's not about where you live, how you live, the people you know, the connections you have. It's not about none of that, man. It's how do you feel in life as a person? Are you happy to wake up every day? Are you happy to have life right now? Are you happy to be the person that you are? Are you happy with the experiences that you've had and the family and friends that you have and the joy that you get out of being alive? That is what it means to be really fucking rich. That's true wealth. Health is wealth. Because if you have shit health, if you're always in and out of a hospital and you're if you're dying, or like imagine this. Imagine you have all the money in the world and then you're dying. What good does it do then? What good does that money do if you're dying anyway? Like, I value health infinitely more than money. And I can't say that that's like that for most people. Most people, they only think about health when things are really fucking bad. I try to think about my health and my family's health every day. I try to. I mean, don't get me. Are there days that I don't think about it? I'm sure, of course. I'm sure there's days where I fall short, many days, as a matter of fact. But the reality is, when I take a deep look at my life, I am beyond enthusiastic and thrilled to be alive. I am thrilled at the wife that I have, the child, my daughter that I have, that even the job that has done so many bad things to me. I am extraordinarily grateful to know that job, to know that that is because that's the job that basically screwed me enough to force me into doing what I really fucking love, which is the podcast, man. It's helping people. It's connecting with people in deeply trying to affect their lives in a positive, great, kind, generous way. There's not a lot of good out there. I mean, there is, but it's so overshadowed by bad. And I'm just trying to be as bright of a fucking light as I possibly can be. And I look at it like this. If I'm a little candle and I have just a little flame, but everyone I talk to is an unlit candle, and I can find a way to take my one little flame and light their candles and give them flames, now you go on to be a light. And now you can help light somebody else's fire. Somebody else's candle. Like, you can take one candle and light 100 candles, and now you got 100 candles lit, and then they can go on and affect 100 more candles. And eventually, it's one light turns into 100, turns into 1,000, turns into 1,000,000, turns into... Dude, it is insane the things that you can accomplish if you try, and if you send the right message, if you do the right things. And I think that a lot of times people are unhappy and they're non-confident, or the lack of confidence is the best way I can word it. I'm trying to think of what the proper word was. But if you have a talent and you know what your talent is, I believe that if you're working at a job right now that you don't like, that you're very unhappy with, if you find a way to use your natural abilities to provide the happiness in your life that you want. Like, if you're really fucking talented at singing, get into being into a band, or start your own, be a singer, a solo singer, like Beyonce or Madonna or Cher. I mean, you can still have a group with you. You can be the lead singer of a band. But if you love doing it and you know you can fucking sing, you should be spending every ounce of time that you can making that dream a reality, if that's what you really want. Maybe you know you have a good voice and singing is just not your thing, but maybe you can get into voice acting, voiceover work. Maybe you can do a podcast, all audio. Maybe you can write a book and do an audio book and just do nothing but audio stuff. If you're a natural athlete, you don't have, but your dad has pushed you into baseball, but you really don't like baseball. You love basketball. Why not try playing so much basketball and then try out and get onto a college team? Or if you're too old for that, you only have so much time when it comes to sports. You can't really join the NBA at 50. I don't know a single one yet. I've never even seen Michael Jordan play at 50. We'll see if LeBron can. But man, it's just, you can do so many different things with the one. If you feel like you only have one natural talent, like you can draw, but you can't paint. There's plenty of good drawers. Maybe you can draw sketches or draw cartoons that will eventually lead to becoming a comic strip, or like a comic book, or a comic strip in the like a newspaper or an online thing. Maybe you can start your own Instagram page where all you do is you put out little comics about yourself that you've drawn. or create your own cartoon and advertise it over there, and then maybe one day eventually a big company will buy the either the rights to your cartoon, or they'll just put you on their payroll to make cartoons for their company. Like, your options are so vast now because of the internet, because of the ability to do everything. You have so many more opportunities than you ever had. And I feel like if you're not doing what you absolutely love to be doing, if you're working at a job that you absolutely hate, and then you go home from that job and you work on your hobby in your spare time, maybe you're building model cars. Maybe that's your fucking thing. There's so many things you can do with that ability of putting things together. You can buy and you can build model cars that you can then sell off at trade shows or online. You can advertise it. You can make YouTube videos of the process of you making these cars. Do a time lapse, show people what it looks like. You can start your own fucking podcast talking about it and showing it maybe on YouTube if you have video. Like, the possibilities are fucking ridiculous now. Like, my wife recently realized she really, really enjoys like videography and photography type things, like with video editing, shooting a bunch of things and then video editing, and she really likes it. She's been doing it kind of as a hobby for fun, and now all of a sudden it's starting to lead into a little bit of work to make money. The opportunity is there. Now, she's not full, like, all in like I have been with my podcast. She's not like advertising and creating her own page and stuff like that, but she's dabbling and she likes it, and that's good. Maybe she never wants to get into YouTube or making videos or making a podcast or advertising it online. Maybe she just likes doing it small time. You don't, like, nobody says you have to be a multi-millionaire doing your thing or you're not successful. The odd thing about it is, if you're happy every day in your life and you're doing what you like to do, that is fucking successful. It's not determined by a dollar amount. And I know that's what we're taught to believe, that, oh, what's the epitome of success? Oh, wearing a suit and tie to work every day and driving a fancy car and having a briefcase and having 7 figures in your bank account. That's not fucking success. That's making a lot of money. And that's fine if that's what you want. The only problem I have with making your number one goal about money is there is no end game. There is no deadline. There is no end. Because if you're living very, very low, like living with no money, and you make your first $100, you don't stop at 100. You're like, shit, man, I made $100. I want to make 1,000. Let me see if I can make 1,000. And then you make 1,000. Then you're like, man, I want to make 10 grand. I want to make 100 grand. I want to make $1 million a year, like, in money. Well, once you've made $1 million, do you think you just stop? And you're like, sweet, I've hit it. I've hit the pinnacle. No, if you're at 35 years old and you hit $1 million, you think you're done? You got another fucking 50 years in you minimum. I mean, as long as, nothing happens. You got at least another 50, 70 fucking years in you. Because let's be honest, with the way modern medicine's going, it's not unlikely to think people are going to be living well into well past 100. It's not crazy. It was back in the 80s. Now, and especially imagine how medicine's going to be 50, 60, 70 years from now. Who knows what the fuck we're going to discover. The reality is, though, dude, when it comes to money, there is no dollar amount. Listen, this is the honest truth. The poorest person on the face of the planet and the richest person on the face of the planet have one thing in common. They both want more money. That's the fucking truth. Prove me wrong. I dare somebody to try to change my mind on that. There is nobody on earth that wouldn't take more money. That is like, no, I have enough. Thank you. Give it to somebody else, please. No, if you have the opportunity to make more money. Now listen, some people are more generous than others and they're more giving, charity, things like that. But my point is, nobody hits a dollar amount and goes, that's it for me. Anything more than that, it's got to be given away. I don't want no more. No more. The richest fucker on the face of the earth wants more money. Now, they might give it to charity. They may buy a new fucking boat or an airplane with it. It doesn't matter what they want the money for. They still want more of it. Nobody is fucking done. There's never a dollar amount where anybody is done. If you hit $1 billion, you want to make $2 billion. You hit $2 billion, you want to make $10 billion. If you make $100 billion, you want to be the first trillionaire. It's the fucking truth. It's just reality. So picking money as your goal is ridiculous. I'm not saying that to shit on anyone who likes money. Everyone likes more money. I never put it on a pedestal. I always put health and happiness in my life, in my family's life, the people I care about. That means infinitely more to me than any amount of money. Because the reality is this. If you wake up every day of your life and you're happy, money is the last fucking thing you're worried about. Because you're fucking happy. That's the truth. If you wake up loving your life, you're not worried about, damn, if only I could get more money. If only I could get more money. Because if that is a deep hole in your heart, that you need more money, that you're desperate for more money, then you ain't happy. But when you're happy about everything that's going on in your life, if you're happy about the health of your family and your friends, if you're happy about the job that you get to do every day, if you're happy about the experiences that you get to have and where you live and what time period you're alive in and how old you are and all these things, you're not worried about money. That's just a bonus. So people, I got to get going, but I really want to push this on people. I want people to understand, if you are talented at anything, I know you are. Every person that's listening to this has an extraordinary talent at something. You're better than all your friends at something. You're better than all your family at something. Figure out what that is, and if you can find a way to do something you love, living off that talent, instead of working at jobs that you don't even like just to make a good amount of money. Because people will get miserable when they make that money. I don't give a fuck if you become a multi-billionaire. If you hate your job, if you hate your life, there's no amount of money that's going to fix that. And I bring up Robin Williams a lot, the comedian actor that passed, because he took his own life. And this guy had all kinds of money. He had family. He had everywhere he went, people loved him. He made everybody laugh. He was famous. He was loved. Everyone wanted to be around him. Everywhere he showed up, he was the life of the party. Everyone fucking loved it. He got to do everything he wanted to do, but he was still miserable for some reason. And I don't know what that reason is. Maybe he talked about it at some point. Maybe it's known by maybe it was just a depression thing. Maybe it was in his head, maybe it was some kind of a disorder. I don't know. And I'm not going to claim that I know. All I do know is he had what most people live for. Like most people would die to just want to achieve what he had. And it wasn't good enough for him. It didn't make him happy. And I don't know what would have. I mean, only he would know that. Only in his mind, maybe his family, I don't know. What I do know is that he took his own life because he wasn't happy. And he had fame and money and popularity and health. And I mean, he lived what everyone else would look at on the outside and say is a phenomenal life. One to be jealous of. But it wasn't enough for him. He wanted something different. And I'm telling you guys, if you don't search for what the fuck makes you happy, what makes you tick, what brings some fire into you, what gets you alive, if you don't figure that out, you're going to have 20, 30, 40 years pass and then be fucking miserable because you got involved with doing shit for money instead of for happiness. And it will break you. It will break the strongest of people. You can only play this fucking game for so long where you keep just plugging away at dead-end jobs that you don't even like. Even if the job makes you a lot of money, it's a dead-end job if you don't like it. If you don't see a future in it because you don't like what you do, it's a dead-end job. It doesn't have to be some small-time, low-paying job. This could be making you millions of dollars a year, and it's a dead-end job. If you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you don't like it, if you hate going to work every day, but you do it just because of all the money that comes with it, that's a dead-end job. And I want you to use your talent to get the fuck out of that. I believe that your talent can make you happy. You can really learn to love your talent if you find what it is. Like the podcast for me, I love doing the podcast. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a salesman. It's the same shit though. I'm talking for a living. I'm communicating with people for a living. I'm in sales, I'm either helping or manipulating. In being a lawyer, same shit. I'm either helping a good person or I'm manipulating the court system to help a bad person. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea of that. But with the podcast, I can genuinely be honest and say what's on my mind and say what I believe is helpful. And there's zero negatives that come with that. I've never asked for money. I don't ask people for shit. So anyone who thinks that I might have some ulterior motive, you're fucking crazy if you think that. Because there isn't anything in this for me. I'm not even I have a full-time fucking job. That's not even my favorite place. But I'm only doing it because I have to. I get to do this. The job that I have is allowing me to pay my bills and keep my family having insurance and food on their plate and all that. When my podcast gets to the point where I can replace that job with just the podcast, believe me, that job's going to be gone. Because I would much rather be doing public speaking and giving speeches and going out and helping people, actively being involved with fixing and helping and changing their lives in a positive, wonderful way. If I can do that shit full time, I won't be working another side job. But at the moment, because I have a family to take care of, I got to do it smart. And so I'm never telling people, hey, just quit your job that's paying your bills and keeping you alive to go live your dream. I'm saying be smart about it. If you know that you need the job in order to pay off your bills, what I'm saying to do is in your free time, then work at your dreams. You got to sacrifice, dude. Nobody achieves a dream with very little sacrifice or time or effort. It just doesn't happen. Like in order for Michael Jordan to live his dream of being the greatest basketball player of all time, do you know how many hours he spent in the gym? Neither do I. But it was way more than I've probably spent at my job, way more than I've spent, at my craft or whatever. Like he worked his ass off for most of it was for free until he finally got paid for it. So, and I'm saying to do the same thing. I'm not saying put yourself in a hole. I'm not saying put yourself in a bad position, you or your family. I'm saying figure it out, be smart about it, plan your shit out, do what's necessary. But you got to at least make the attempt. And I don't give a fuck if everybody you tell that you, like, I don't care if all of a sudden you say you want to be the world's connoisseur or, video blogger about hacky sack. Then do that. But don't give up your job. Don't make your family suffer over it. And even if all your family says, look, dude, you're not that good. You might want to give up this dream. You don't have to give it up. Do what's smart and take care of your family first. But practice and practice and practice and practice your dream or your hobby or your, the career you're trying to be involved in. Do that shit in your free time, in your spare time. But life is a series of trade-offs, dude. Like, I don't want to avoid spending time with my family to do my podcast out of own, like I don't want to be selfish about it. At the same time, it means a lot to me because I genuinely want to help a lot of people. It would be amazing if the entire world knew who I was for a positive, good reason. I don't want infamy. I don't want people to be like, oh, there's that fucking guy. I want people to be like, I don't like care about the, like admiration is kind of a weird thing to say. It's not like I don't do this because I want people to look up to me. I do this because I genuinely want to leave a good impact on somebody's life. And in turn, maybe they'll look up to me, but that's irrelevant. I don't give a fuck if people look up to me. I don't care if people admire me. I just want to know that I have cemented myself in history for a guy that has positively impacted somebody's life and changed it for the better. Because I feel like my mom and dad did an extraordinary job of raising me and giving me perspective to know that the gifts that I have are not because I'm so awesome, but because I've been very blessed and very fortunate to see and experience and have what I have. And I want to share that with everyone else. I want everyone else to experience life the same way, like to feel that greatness, not greatness within themselves. Like, I don't mean like that. I mean to experience that great feeling that I get to experience and appreciate. I want everyone to have that kind of self-esteem and confidence. I don't give a fuck if people talk shit about me. People talk shit about me every damn day. And it's funny because I'll even have some people come up to me like, hey man, you should have heard what this guy said. I don't give a fuck. He can keep saying it. The longer I live rent-free in that motherfucker's head, the better I'm doing. But I can't let anybody else's words, good or bad, affect my mission. And you shouldn't either. If somebody doesn't appreciate your work, politely tell them to go fuck themselves and get back to work. And that's the truth. Everyone needs to be doing this, man. But figure out what it is, man. I know you have a talent in you. Every guy, every girl has a fucking extraordinary gift. Don't waste it. You know, it's a sin to be good when you were sent to be great. I believe that. I don't believe it's a sin. I mean, I don't believe God's going to be like, oh, you're going to hell because you didn't use your gift that I gave you. I'm just saying it's a damn shame when you waste a talent that you didn't ask for. You didn't deserve it. You weren't entitled to it. You just fucking have it. Now, why wouldn't you use it? That's the question. Why wouldn't you use it? That's all the time I got today, guys. I love you so much, and I thank you for listening. Honestly, I hope this helps somebody. I want everyone on earth that hears this to reach out. You can find me in so many different fucking places. Just DM me. You can leave a voice message through the Anchor app that I record all this shit on. You can find me on Instagram at Really Rich Podcast. You can find me at Really Rich Adam on Twitter. You can find me on Snapchat and YouTube at Really Rich. And then on LinkedIn, that's the new hotness, the new big one. LinkedIn, man, you can find me Adam Rich, founder and host of the Really Rich Podcast. So, guys, like I said, please communicate with me. Even if you think I'm wrong, even if you hate me, even if you think everything I'm doing sucks, I encourage it. I don't have to hear it. You know what I mean? I don't let it sway me one way or the other. So please, guys, if you want to tell me I suck, go ahead. If you want to tell me I'm awesome, go ahead. Anywhere in between, I'm more than happy to talk. So please do that, guys. I love you so much, and I thank you again for listening. And I'll talk to you soon, all right? Peace. I'm out of here.